So welcome everybody. Welcome students of Ahmedabad University for joining today's webinar organized by the Office of International Affairs. But I would like to give a huge round of applause and gratitude to Mr. Greg Lewis, who's joined us from to present today's webinar from the University of Oxford. And I'm going to start by giving you a little bit of a quick bio of Greg before we hand it over to him. So Greg has worked in international education for the last 25 years. And after graduating from the University of London School of Oriental and African Studies, it's an institution that specializes in humanities, social sciences, languages, econ, finance, law, several very interesting subject areas and disciplines. He graduated from SOAS with a BA honors, and and after that he trained as a corporate lawyer, where he worked in law firms in Hong Kong and London. He retrained as a teacher, and he joined the University of Cambridge. And after a very successful stint at Cambridge, he joined Oxford to design, launch, and run Exeter College's summer programs. And that's how we have Greg. And one of the very important linkages today that I want to talk about is that he also facilitated school students of Ahmedabad University to go to Cambridge University while he was at Pembroke College at Cambridge University. Professor Parag Patel is a friend of his and his associate, and was very supportive and connected us to Greg. So over to you, Greg, for today's presentation. And thank you so much for coming.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much for the introduction. And thank you, all of you, for being here. I know you must have busy schedules, so it's a real privilege for me to be able to do this and to talk to you. I'm going to try and not talk too much, actually, quite unusually for me. I want to obviously give you information, enough information so you understand what it is that we do and what we offer. But of course, it would be personally a huge milestone for me if we were able to develop a new link to Ahmedabad. As Anu says, having had personal experience of working with Ahmedabad and meeting some students each year, I'd be delighted to resurrect that. Because we are quite a large group, I'm really keen for you to be able to ask questions, but I think I'm going to ask you to drop them in the chat box, in the chat function. And perhaps if you can, no, just do them as they go along. And what I'll do is I'll keep an eye on them. And if something's relevant to the point I'm making, I will answer it at that time. Otherwise, we'll have plenty of time at the end. Anu, is my presentation available?
Yes, absolutely. Jason, would you like to just share the presentation, please?
Thank you. And thank you all for telling me which school you're studying at and which subject you're majoring in. I'm really happy to answer questions about specific subject areas. I'm also very happy to continue this conversation afterwards over email. For the purposes of this presentation, I'm not going to gear it towards any one particular subject area, because I want to give an overview, and also because we can offer specializations in a very wide range of subject areas. So can I click on the presentation, or is someone going to do the pages for me? Anu, how's this going to work? We can go on to the next page.
That's it.
I'll start. So just while we're waiting to get the right page up, I thought it would be helpful if I started with to give you some context about the University of Oxford. I sometimes play a bit of a trick on groups when they gather, and I ask a question. I mean, no one's expecting to have to contribute, just to listen. And I sometimes say, you know, what if I was to say two words to you? What three words would come into your mind? And the two words I give are Oxford University. And often people have, I think, a view of it, that it's old perhaps, and that it's well respected, and has high academic standing and so on and so forth, which it does. But I think also because of the age and because of that reputation, sometimes it can appear a bit impenetrable and difficult to understand. And I want to break that down completely. It's full of people who are normal in every sense of the way, except they're very passionate about studying and about learning and about researching. So I would say the three things that distinguish Oxford University are the quality of its teaching, and there's a particular way that we conduct teaching, the quality of the research, and the innovation. Thank you. You can go on one. We've done the introduction, so I think, yeah, thank you. So Oxford University is made up of 30 constituent colleges. What that means is there's a separation and a relationship between the University of Oxford and the colleges which make up the university. That's most obvious if you were to look for a faculty, for example, the Faculty of Law. It would have its own site and it would be controlled and staffed by the university. But the students, the undergraduates who are studying law, would all be members of a college, one of the 30. And that's one of the choices that students make when they go to Oxford. They first apply to the university, and if they're successful in their application to the university, they then select a college, and the college has to agree to take them. And the colleges have common characteristics. So this is where students live and eat and socialize and participate in a lot of extracurricular activities, sports, drama, politics. And the colleges themselves all have physically similar characteristics. There will, of course, be bedrooms, a dining room, a chapel, a library, and so on. But they vary in size, and they vary in location, and they vary in age. And it's usually those three things which students base their decision on. There's a slide later, but I'll touch on it now. Exeter College is one of the oldest universities in Oxford, over 700 years old. And it's one of the smaller ones. And that makes it, we think, one of the friendlier colleges because we were able to get to know all of our students, and that's really important to us. And as I talk about the programs, you'll see that's a feature that comes through in how we designed them. I'm going to talk about two different programs today. One is an in-person program, which takes place, yeah, this one, please. So back one slide, please. Thank you. So one is ECSP, the Exeter College Summer Programme. That's in person, takes place in our summertime over 6 weeks in July and August. And ECOTP, which is the Exeter College Online Tutorial Programme, which takes place all year round. So if I start with ECSP, this is a 6-week programme that is hosted entirely and organised entirely by Exeter College. And that's important because there are a lot of programmes that take place in Oxford that are really nothing to do with the university other than the third party uses the university's facilities. This programme is run by me and my colleagues at Exeter College. As you, I think, probably or should expect, we've looked at how term time teaching is arranged in Oxford. And we've tried very hard to replicate that. And so to give everyone that comes on the programme as authentic an experience of undergraduate life in Oxford as we possibly can. Students who come on the programme, over 80% of them want to take our courses for academic credit. The online programme, this is a chance to work over 6 or 8 weeks at any time of the year. That would be decided by you and your availability to work with us. You work on an individual basis with a tutor, one-to-one. The course catalogue is much wider. So long as the subject is a taught subject in Oxford, there's a very good chance that we will be able to find a tutor to work with you. It's convenient because you can do it at any time of year, but also at any time of day, the timing of your sessions. So it does involve a lot of work, but it would mean that you could, for example, do it alongside an internship, or even possibly between your studies. we'd need to be careful to make sure you have sufficient time to do both. And you also can earn credits on that program. So the fundamentals of both programs are that one of the characteristics of an Oxford University education, the teaching, is all based around what we call the tutorial system. And this is to do with conversations that take place between the tutor and the student. It's an ancient method of education, started by the Greeks, and it's the one that works for us. And so that's really central to either of the programs. If you participated in either of these, you would experience the tutorial system. Okay, we can go next slide, please. A little bit more detail about Exeter College. The photo behind here is what we call the Fellows Garden. This is at the back of the college. The building in the background is our college library. And this is an area, as you can see, which is open to students. And we do sometimes get lovely sunny days like this in the summer. Not always, to be honest, but we do get sunny days. As I said, it's one of the oldest. So we were founded in 1314. Unusually for an Oxford college, we have two sites. So this site that we're looking at in the picture is the old bit that dates back to 1314. But we also have a brand new state-of-the-art campus that was completed in 2017. And it's both sites that we operate on ECSP. You could live on either site, you have a choice. The library here obviously is the library that most of our students choose to use, as well as the other facilities that are available at both sites. So we like to think it's the best of both worlds, old and new. Given our long history, I think you'd expect that we can look through our annals and see we've had some well-known alumni. I've just picked out three here, two authors, and Roger Bannister was the person who broke the 4-minute mile record. It doesn't really matter where you are in Oxford. At some point, somewhere, maybe in the seat you choose in the library or the bedroom that you're sleeping in, you will literally be walking in the footsteps of people who've gone on to do some quite interesting and even extraordinary things. And we don't want that to be a crushing weight on you, but we hope that it'll be an inspiration to you as you go about your academic work. Okay, we can go on. Thank you. So I'm going to talk now about the next few slides. I'm just going to talk about ECSP. So this is the in-person program. We have a academic courses ranging from through the arts and humanities, social sciences, STEM subjects too. And they're taught by leading scholars, most of whom are Oxford people. We occasionally bring in people from outside Oxford who we think can really add something to the program, but they will have been educated in Oxford or Cambridge. There's the same system of teaching in Cambridge. So they will understand the tutorial system. Your academic pathway, this is where we get into one of the more interesting points, I think. So we give our students quite a lot of responsibility, and that begins at the selection point. I should just add that there's a ton of support available too. The fact that we work in so closely with you and get to know you means that we can pick up if things aren't quite working, and we can put extra support in place very quickly. We're very quick and nimble. But we want you to have responsibility, first of all, with your academic pathway. So there are no restrictions on the lecture courses, the combination of courses. Everybody takes 2 courses. There's no restriction on what 2 courses that you can take. If you wanted to go for one of our STEM subjects, then there may well be, in fact, there almost certainly will be prerequisites. Okay, it's for people who have a background, because we're going to take you into quite a high level. But other than that, there are no restrictions. So first up, you get to choose what courses you study. A typical combination would be to take a course within your major and to try something different. That's what most people choose to do. And as I mentioned already, the teaching is modelled on Oxford's famous tutorial system. And this means small groups. So by small groups, we're now at 71 for this presentation, and that's 7 times bigger than most of our lecture groups. So a typical lecture group would be 15 people. And then they get increasingly smaller. I think that'll come up in the next slide. We just go back one slide. Thank you. Right, just finish this. So the discussion base, as you can see, in small groups, it's not about sort of you've got nowhere to hide. I think the mentality is that everyone's got something to contribute. And this is where the ancient Socratic method of learning through conversations really begins. You need to be able to listen to your colleagues and, of course, listen to the experts who are teaching you and guiding you, but also for you to contribute too. And it's through those conversations that your ideas begin to develop and form. And over the course of 6 weeks, you will start to build up a very substantial and rigorous body of work. It will stand up to scrutiny. The personalization comes in, as I said, because you choose your pathway, but also because in such small groups, you are able to concentrate. Even within our lecture courses, you can concentrate on areas that you find most interesting. You will receive guidance yourself. So when we ask you, and we will do, to write an essay, you'll have weekly meetings. And at the end of those meetings, your tutor will give you, and only you, a set of readings to do, which are all directed towards your area of interest and your essay. It's highly personalized. And of course, being so personalized, this gives you great access to our faculty who, it's difficult for me. I find it always, this is something that people, I think, tend not to believe me. It's one of those things that people don't believe it until it happens to them. But the discussion-based tutorial system works 2 ways. Our tutors learn from you. It doesn't matter if you have a degree of expertise in the subject or not. If you don't, you have fresh eyes, and that's really valuable. If you have some expertise, that's also very interesting. And so it's a 2-way street, and that means that our faculty are very available to work with you. Of course, they're going to turn up on time and deliver the sessions, but they're going to probably stay around and have a cup of coffee and make themselves available to continue having those conversations with you outside the classroom. Next one, please. It was hard for me to put a slide together here because it could have gone on and on and on and on. I think when I say what to expect, the thing that keeps me awake at night is the student that says to me at the end of the summer, well, I really enjoyed myself, Greg, but that was really easy. So we don't want to make it unnecessarily difficult for you, but I think that you're entitled, anyone who comes to Oxford to spend the summer with us is entitled to feel that they're going to be challenged intellectually and supported, but you come with the mindset that you really want to experiment and engage with a different system, but of course to further your knowledge as well. And so our courses are designed, I would say they are at 2nd year undergraduate level. Bear in mind that we have 3-year degrees here. So they're quite up, they're upper level for us, upper division. They're becoming advanced level. Each lecture course consists of lectures, seminars, and tutorials. So the lecture is self-evident. The seminars, typically 8 to a seminar, 8 students. And this is where the active learning begins. So it's going to be a chance to ask questions about things that were introduced in the lectures and to go into further detail about some aspects of the points that have been introduced to you and to discuss it with your peers and to engage with group work. And then the tutorials. Tutorials are all conducted on a 2-to-1 basis, 2 students to 1 tutor. And you will submit work to your tutor before the tutorial. That work will be discussed between the 3 of you. And then at the end of each tutorial, as I said, you'll be given another set of readings and another task prior to the Next tutorial. All our classes run Monday to Friday, which means you've got the weekends free, and then time at the end of the program in which to revise and write up. In addition to this, there's a lot of other things I won't have time to mention, but one of the things I did want to mention was a series of evening lectures that we give. And we invite people who have risen to the top of their area of professionalization. And it's a real pleasure, actually, because they come and talk, and they talk quite freely because of the audience, which is different usually to what they're used to. So, for example, I'm only going to give one example from that list, but the first person, Baroness Helena Kennedy, is one of the most senior lawyers in the country. She's held a whole range of different positions, privately and within the government, and now she's in the upper chamber, so she's involved in lawmaking as well. Among her many achievements, she took on a case in which a woman had been married for over 20 years and had suffered physical and mental abuse at the hands of her husband throughout that marriage, privately behind closed doors. And eventually she snapped and she killed her husband. She'd had enough. And so she was on trial for murder. But Helena took the case on and developed a new defense in which she was successful. And so this woman avoided prison. And I think she's continued in that vein. So we have people like that who've done very interesting things in their lives, who will come and chat to us. And they also are available afterwards for you to continue those conversations. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. So assessment and credit. Over 90% of the students that come and study with us take our courses for academic credit, which they transfer home. So it means something to them. And you'll receive an official transcript from us showing the grades that you achieved. Assessment for our lecture courses comprises three main elements. One is a written exam. So you'll be examined on the material covered in your lectures and seminars. And the second is a research essay. So this is what you work on in your tutorials. And then finally, there's an element of participation. It might be that you give a presentation. It might be more informal. It might just be the tutor and the lecturer and the seminar leader keeping a register and keeping an eye on how well prepared you are and how willing you are to contribute and join into the discussions. Each of those courses typically provides 3 to 4 US credits, or if you like the European system, that's 7.5. So you double that for your course load, 6 to 8 or 15 European credits. And I just wanted to say that although our courses are high level and we do want to challenge you, that doesn't mean that anybody suffers. In fact, it's the opposite. If you're willing to come and take on the challenge, we'll support you through the way. And everyone on the program has earned their place there. And so it's no surprise to us that they produce really good results. In fact, if they don't, if you're not producing good work, that's a clear sign to us that we need to step in and see what we can do to help. So over the years, in fact, this is last year's mean, the mean grade 70.9. Now, I don't know what the system at Ahmedabad is, but before anyone starts panicking, if you're feeling like you might panic, 80% in Oxford is an A. It's a very, very high grade. 85 is almost unheard of in every subject except maths. So people do exceptionally well at the end of the program. Okay, next one, please. Thank you. So there's two different pathways. Pathway A, you choose 2 lecture courses, and I think the next slide coming up is the list of courses so you can see them. Pathway B is that you would take a course and you would substitute a lecture course with what we call an individual research tutorial, the IRT for short. And this is an opportunity for you to tell us what you want to research. It's not for what I would call academic tourism. So you need to have quite a history of working in this area. Typically that means having taken some courses, produced some assignments, done quite a lot of reading. But I think the critical thing is that you tell us. So it would be hard. I would be hard pressed to make this more personalized. We then find a tutor to work with you, and you work with that tutor on a one-to-one basis. It's really a good option if you are working on an undergraduate thesis, or if you are thinking about going to grad school. I would say typically that type of objective as a learning outcome, I think it can be really helpful. We have some examples of IRTs on our website, so you can see the types of project that our students have been involved in. Okay, next slide, please. So these are the courses that we offer. As I said, you can see we have science, social science, arts, humanities, with a good spread of subjects. Whether you want to learn about quantum computing, behavioral economics, how to read paintings, or history. So it gives you options to take something within your subject area and something outside. And the IRT, as well as being a good option for students who are working on other objectives in mind, the IRT, of course, completely breaks open the course catalogue. So if you don't see something there that you immediately are drawn to, you have a look at the IRT as a way of being able to study the subject that you want to study. Next one, please. Okay, here we go. Hold on to your hats. So here are the costs. There's a £60 application fee, and then a programme fee of £7,600. If you decide to do the IRT, then there's an additional fee of £790. The text on the right is probably too small for you to see, and it's all available on our website. I can summarize that by saying, other than getting to Oxford, everything is covered in the fee. So your living arrangements, and we only have single bedrooms, so nobody shares. You'll have a single bedroom with your own bathroom, as many meals as you can eat, a whole program of extracurricular activities, which I haven't even touched on yet. Some set piece dinners, a trip to London, all your academic work and subjects. Back a bit, please. Back. We haven't got to this page yet. Could you go back, please? And again. And again. Yeah, here we are. And all the supports that the college offers its regular students. So, you know, if you have any interests, you can pursue those. If you have any issues, whether they be well-being or health related, you know, that's all in place for you. So the only thing that you would need to do on top of this is to cover your airfare and then decide what you want to do at the weekends. We have scholarships and bursaries available. So the scholarships, there's an academic entry requirement to be considered. And if you meet that, you then can be considered for our bursaries as well, which are awarded on a discretionary basis based on need. Okay, next slide, please. So next couple of slides, I'm going to talk about the online program. Now, clearly, the main difference between these two is one's online and one's in person, that's obvious. But the online program is much more flexible, given that you can do it any time of the year, but also because you can choose from a much wider portfolio of courses. And relatively speaking, it's much cheaper as well. So I think the convenience and the cost are the two main considerations. And what I've said here is an overview. I've called it unique. I think that might be overstating it. I've got to be honest. How often do you find something that's truly unique? It's an opportunity, a good opportunity to experience the Oxford University tutorial system. And you can do that, as I say, conveniently, because you can study from anywhere at any time of the year. And this, to me, is the absolute heartbeat of an Oxford education. So if you want to access that, if you want to experience that, the tutorial is it. Of course, something is lost by working remotely, but actually, in terms of the tutorial, very little. Compared to a lecture course, I would say in which you lose a lot by not being present in the classroom with your peers, the tutorial, you don't. In fact, all the best elements of the tutorial can be captured remotely. Next slide, please. What you can expect on the online tutorial is a choice of two routes, tailored or self-directed. And again, this information is described in more detail on our website. So self-directed is like the IRT. You tell us what it is that you want to research, and then we go and find a tutor to work with you, again, on a one-to-one basis. However, there is an option to go down the tailored route, and so there would be a prescribed set of readings and a prescribed academic pathway for you to follow. So a bit more structure. Perhaps if you're at an earlier stage of your academic journey, that would suit you. Within that structure, there's plenty of scope to tailor it to your interests. But it just provides, as I say, a little bit more signposting. This again is obviously great preparation for a major thesis or graduate study. I would say this is, along with the IRT, it's a dip your toe into graduate level work, almost. This is what a graduate student would be involved in most of the time. So it opens the door and the window to that. And it will give you access to Oxford academics and all the courses that are on offer in Oxford. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so I mentioned the relative cost. The cost of this program, there's an application fee for this too, and then a program fee just under £2,000. And again, this covers all that you would need. Your tutor will often, and particularly if you can't access them, as well as giving you a reading list, will probably give you the readings too. So you'll be able to access your home university's library and online resources. We will also provide the resources that you need in order to undertake your studies with us. Assessment for the tutorial is either on the production of a final essay, so one final essay carries 100% of your marks, or each week or each meeting, each tutorial, you will receive a mark, a grade for your work, and that will be aggregated. The decision about which method of assessment will apply to you is for you and your tutor to agree. So there are two options. Obviously, if you're not doing arts, humanities, social science, if you're going to do a STEM subject, we're not talking about writing, it's problem sets. And so it may well be an aggregate, a build-up. But that's for you to decide with your tutor. We're, of course, at the ready to help, but most people decide that with their tutor. Okay, next slide, please. So next steps. I just want to talk about here as well our admissions criteria. So we use the American GPA system. I hope everyone's familiar with that. It's a system of continuous assessment where the top score is usually 4. So on a 4-point scale, admission to either of our programs, you would need to have a GPA of 3.5 or better. Maybe someone can convert that, help me to convert that to the system that you use at Ahmedabad. And then we want to see some supporting documents. So we want to see a transcript, a reference, and a piece of work that you've produced as part of your degree. Those are the three supporting documents that we need. And my message with either of these programs is to apply early. We operate rolling admission, and so the programs fill up as we go along. And particularly the in-person program, that will be full by the end of February. Once we have a complete application, we aim to give you our decision within a week. For the in-person program, I mentioned scholarships, and the scholarship deadline is, it says March the 1st, but I don't think that's right. I think it's more like, it always used to be Valentine's Day, so early February. The point is to apply early to avoid disappointment. Okay, next slide, please. A little bit earlier, I said I haven't really touched upon the social side, the extracurricular. I would just say briefly that we employ, for the in-person program, we employ half a dozen Oxford University students, and it's their job to assist you in any way that you might need assistance, and also to run a packed and busy social program. So we want to make sure that alongside your academic experience, you have a good time, and that we maximize your experience of coming all this way and spending the summer with us. But I would encourage you to have a look around our website. There are a couple of videos, and there's a schedule from last week, which gives you a very last year, which gives you a very clear idea of the number of activities and the range of activities that are going to be going on day in, day out. And my final point, if you're wondering who you'll be sharing the classroom with, that would be a good question. You'll share the classroom with people from around the world. So we do have a lot of students from North America, as you'd expect, but also from Canada, North Africa, traditionally the Middle East, but this year, with the way things are, who knows? We hope, but we don't know. And then from Asia, and I mean Asia, so from Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore, Southeast Asia, and so on. And it would be lovely if we could look forward to having some students from India too. So I'm going to stop, and I'm going to check the questions if there's any questions in the chat function. But if you have questions, please feel free to fire them over, either in the chat or by unmuting and asking.
Greg, if I could get everybody started, what does a competitive applicant's profile look like? And then I think you've already started getting some more questions.
Sure. So because we have a rolling application, you're competing against our admissions criteria and the clock. And I mean, you need to be hitting our 3.5 out of 4. But if it's 3.51, that's good enough. If it's 3.9, of course, it's good enough. We don't make an assessment based, you're not competing against each other. And then we look at the whole application. So the piece of writing we ask for, this is quite a writing intensive program, both of them. And so we just want to see how you express yourselves in the written form. So the main thing is, if you're close to our 3.5, but not quite there, and there's a reason for it, sometimes life jumps up and surprises us, and we're well aware that this can happen, I would encourage you to tell me the background. And then we'll have a look at your application in light of what you've told us, and it's quite possible that we'll make you an offer. But I would say that's my advice. Get up to the mark and then apply early. Okay, questions. Is the in-person program suggested for? Okay, good question. Is it suggested for first year students? Well, this is always quite a difficult question to answer because we have, let me answer it this way. We always have quite a lot of first year students and they do well, as you've seen by the mean score. If I look at this from a sort of planning step back point of view, I would say, I think it's probably going to be better for people that have got a couple of years under their belt because you're going to need to have some skills. You're going to need to know how to approach a reading list, which is a list of books, and how to operate in a library and so on and so forth. But I don't think that's fair, actually. My experience tells me otherwise. I think if you're a first year and you feel ready, and then you go back to start your second year, having had this experience with us, you're going to be in a great place. So we don't distinguish. That's not part of our selection criteria. Share more about the and those who develop. Yeah, so scholarships, that's another good question. So the scholarship application, there's a higher GPA requirement, 3.8. If you meet that threshold, you then move forward to be considered for a bursary, and the bursaries are determined on a need basis. So in your application, you should tell us about your circumstances, and I would encourage you to be as specific as possible. And I mean, if you're receiving funding already, and so there's a shortfall between the funding you receive and the cost of the program, tell us, because it's discretionary, and that will help us to make a decision, first of all, about whether we feel you should be offered a bursary, and secondly, the level of bursary that we would offer you. Okay, but you need to hit that 3.8 to get through. Okay, being a finance major, will learning international relations be families? Well, I would say absolutely. This is a question about taking subjects that don't directly fit into your major. All our courses are designed, when I sit down with an academic, have that first conversation with them, I say there's some key fundamentals. And one of those fundamentals is that the course is designed to be multidisciplinary, appeal to students from a wide range of academic backgrounds and disciplines. And in my eyes, the world has changed. The world is complicated, and in order to be able to make sense of it and perhaps to provide some solutions to the problems that exist out there, we need to be able to think in new ways. And one of those ways is across boundaries. In fact, we need to do away with academic boundaries. So yes, you're taking a course in international relations will help you to understand human behavior. It will help you to understand globalization, both of which, for example, are features of finance. When you come to do finance, finance is global. Finance involves people. So I would say certainly it will do. And what's more, you'll find that the majority of people in the lecture course will also be in that position.
Greg, I'll just, with reference to a question, a student has asked about the first year students taking foundation courses. So foundation program is very unique. It's basically Ahmedabad's common core, and there are 6 domains and themes which are relevant to the 21st century around which this is built. Typically, incoming freshmen need to take the foundation program to steep them in interdisciplinary learning, which is a very hands-on, interdisciplinary, experiential, learning-oriented, studio. So I think one of the students is saying, I don't think that's a barrier at all, I think, to answer the question from an Ahmedabad perspective, but please feel free to add your thoughts, Greg. And when we're talking about GPA, we're not talking about a consolidated 4-year GPA. We're talking about a GPA that you guys receive in every year and every semester of your study at Ahmedabad. I hope that clarifies.
Yeah, correct. So it's your GPA at the time of application. That's what we want to see, your most recent set of results. In terms of the foundation year, I mean, we want to see some genuine academic courses on the record. So if they're on there, absolutely. And of course, we want alongside the foundation course, I think those two things would actually make quite a compelling case, because you're going to need to have either you're going to need to show us that you've got the academic skills, or we'll want to see that you've got the potential to thrive under our system, and we help you. No one that comes on the program has experienced it before, so we're very skilled at helping people transition.
That's
Okay,
great,
so
Greg.
the application.
I
Sorry.
just wanted to add that the foundation program has been recognized now by some major international associations, such as the American Association of Collegiate Schools of Business, AACSB, and Times Higher Education for its unique pedagogy. So just an Ahmedabad perspective to say it's a cutting edge element of the students' curriculum, which is built around themes such as democracy and justice, environment, citizenship, and there are 2 skill-based courses in data science and communication too. So those are good, but I can, after the webinar, maybe give you some links and share more information so that you're able to assess our students accordingly. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. So just a question about the application. So I will, or maybe Anu or your colleague can share the flyers. So there's a web address which takes you to Exeter College's web pages, and that's where you make an application. And then just a question about extracurriculars. No, they don't. They don't make any. That's not one of the criteria on which we would make an admission decision. I got a hand up. Did I see? Yeah. I think Satya, is it? Has a hand up?
Yes. Hello. I just wanted to clarify one thing. Is that you mentioned that scholarships are essentially a pathway to getting bursaries. So are they different, or can you get a scholarship as well as a bursary? That was not very clear to me.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry if I've confused you. It's possible to win. Yes, so it's possible to win a scholarship, and it's possible to win a bursary. So there are 2 types of award. But you need the critical thing, Satya, is that you need to have a GPA that gets you in to be considered. And then what happens is we're going to consider all eligible applications together. So it's going to be a combination of need and merit. We want to create access to the program for everyone, but particularly for those for whom finance is a barrier. But at the same time, we don't want to discriminate against someone who has outstanding academic results and through no fault of their own has no need for extra money. So we're going to look at all the applications together, and we're going to consider both need and merit.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. How much knowledge should one have in a given subject field before attempting an IRT? So I don't think anyone in the first year would be quite ready to do an IRT. And it's a difficult question. You have to demonstrate to us that you have an understanding of this subject already. How do you do that? Well, you would tell us which books you've read, which articles you've read, and the course or courses that you've taken in this area. But and it's a specialist thing. Okay, so it's not about, I want to do an IRT because I want to know more about post-Second World War European history. That doesn't work. But if you said you wanted to find out, you wanted to do research about the North Africa campaign in the last 6 months of 1943, that's more like it. And you can't do that if you don't understand, the lead up to the Second World War, even the consequences of the Second World War, how the North Africa campaign fitted into the whole conflict, and so on. Aditya, you have your hand up.
Hi.
Hi.
So I had a specific question when you talked about research, if I'm not wrong,
Yeah.
and Oxford's focus on it. So I had a specific question in that. So For example, as a student, I might not have a research topic at hand that's ready, but I also would like to try and experiment with a few topics. So, will that be considered as a part of the application process, or is that something that can be facilitated in Oxford itself? So, for
Okay, so
example,
if you're, yeah, okay, I understand, thanks. So if you're talking about the in-person program, you have an
yes,
opportunity. Yeah, okay, so you will, and let's just assume, for the sake of argument, you're going to do 2 lecture courses. You will have to, research is central to all of our lecture courses. And you will be given a list of essay questions at the very beginning and asked to choose one. But that's not a definitive list. If you want to modify the question or even come up with your own question, you can. And if indeed you decide that you're going to change it, you can't do that indefinitely because you need obviously time to work on it. But if you find that as you're working on the subject, your interest is going down a particular route that wasn't perhaps anticipated, we can accommodate that.
so it is sort of dynamic in that sense that your research question might evolve a bit, but you have to have a starting structure. Correct me if I'm
You
wrong,
must have a
yes?
starting structure, and it is very important to get the focus right at the beginning because you
Understood.
need the time to do it. But it is flexible in the sense that we're not going to force anyone down an academic pathway that they don't want to go. And if your ideas change because you've had 1 or 2 interesting conversations with your tutor, perhaps with some of your peers, that's fine. We can accommodate that. It's a small program, 110 students with small classes, and we want to keep it small in order that we can get to know you personally and we can make these changes so that you study courses and subjects that are relevant to your interests. So I don't recommend it, Aditya, but if that's the way it pans out, we will work with you so that you can end up with an essay question and a research topic that you really want to do.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Repeat the minimum. Yeah, so yeah, that's correct. The minimum GPA requirement is 3.5 out of 4 on a 4-point scale.
And Greg, as you mentioned, that if a student has a few points less, that then the student could explain that in an essay or in their application form as to why they would still be a good fit for the program, but let's say they have a 3.2, they still would be considered.
Yeah, so let me, I don't want to mislead anybody. It's a very competitive program. The end of February is, my entire time, over 10 years working in Cambridge, programs were never full in February. They were full perhaps in May. So it is very competitive. You would need, in order for us to consider you, if you have less than 3.5, you need to be very close, first of all. And by very close, I mean 3.48, possibly 3.47. You need to be nearly hitting the mark. Because and then you're going to need to be, you're going to need to tell us why you're not at that mark. And if something happens in life, and we've seen this, unfortunately, it does happen, and we can see someone going along their academic journey at university very well indeed, and then bang, something happens clearly, and that semester, possibly 2 semesters, just derails things. And that's what takes the GPA down below what we are asking for. And we would then be open to looking at your application. If you're not near the mark, then my best advice, even if it's not what anyone wants to hear, would be to get your head down, work hard with a view to applying next year. If you do, on the other side of that, because you're applying against the clock and against our admissions criteria, if you are 3.5 or above, you will almost certainly receive an offer. Yeah, certainly. That's a good question. I've been asked, I think everyone can see this, the last question. So the average GPA from last year was 3.81. And the year before it was 3.8, and the year before it was 3.78. So we've always been around that sort of area. I don't want to put people off and think, everyone that comes is sort of, it's a different in a way to you. They're not. Ahmedabad is an outstanding university, and the thing that unites people on our programs is that they have a passion for learning. And if you've got that, you're most welcome, and I think would fit right in.
Thank you so much, Greg. This has been a fantastic session. And I just want to end it by saying to our students, those who've attended, and this is being recorded, so we're going to put it up on our YouTube and social media platforms, that, going for a program like this is going to benefit you not only while you are at Ahmedabad University, you're going to come back, with a fresh and a very unique perspective, having gone through a very academically rigorous summer school, which will help you perform better at Ahmedabad University. And also when you apply for your master's to different universities around the world for your master's or PhD, this is going to have a strong influence, a strong positive influence on your applications 2, 3, whatever years down the line when you apply for your master's or PhD program. Also, it might be the starting point of a relationship with academics at Oxford, as part of your undergraduate research, if some of you take that, and friends from across the world, which is also going to give you multicultural skills, understanding of other academic systems. So it's going to be a great opportunity of a lifetime. And I think if you apply, you get in, and you go through the program successfully, it's going to be a solid foundation on which you'll be able to build your academic and or your professional career going forward. So thank you for taking the time, for those of you who joined us today. And I'm extremely grateful to Greg for his time as well, Greg.
But I just add, sorry, one point to add on that. Thank you. That is really important. It's hard for me to have precise data because we do rely a little bit on people telling us. But to my knowledge, around about 15% of the people who come on our programs return to Oxford as graduates. And Anu is absolutely right. The personalized teaching enables you to have a relationship that extends beyond the program. And so your tutors will almost certainly write references for you. And having had experience of this type of work, it does put you in a good position, I think, to go on and do whatever the next stage is for you.